So next we need some images on our web page. Otherwise this is going to look pretty boring. And I'm going to show you three different ways of inserting images here. Our aim is to use responsive images. That is, images that change according to the circumstances. So let's say if we have a very big desktop screen, we should use high quality image. If we're using a mobile screen, we can use a low quality image. It doesn't really matter on a small screen. And also, if our network connection is temporarily bad, we should load an image that loads quickly. The best way to ensure that we use responsive images is to allow the browser to do all the heavy lifting. And my aim is to show you how we can automate this selection by giving all the power to the browser, because the browser has all this information about the network connection, the screen size, the screen density, and so on and so forth. And it can do the calculations quickly. Let's start with the easiest way of inserting an image here. And we're going to use the image tag, just like this. And you can see that it doesn't have a closing tag, unlike the previous tags we've been using, like the H3 tag here and the P tag here. But the image has two attributes, the source attribute and the alt. Now in the source we place the location and the name of the image. So in this case, my images, the small one, the medium and the large one, are all located here on the same root level as the index HTML file. So I think if I type here dog, yes, VS Code offers me the options, the files that start with this word. And we're going to pick out the smallest one, and there it is. Now the alt attribute is a description of this image. So let's say if you're not able to see the image and you're using a screen reader, for example, the screen reader will read aloud this text. And it's best to be very concise here. So let's say a dog walking in the street. Not the most imaginative description, but we'll go with this one for now. Now the problem we have here is that the browser doesn't know the exact dimensions of this image. It doesn't know that this image is 480 pixels wide and 320 pixels tall. So while it is loading this image, along with the other stuff here on this page, it has no idea how much space to reserve for this image. And this will cause layout shifts, these sudden jumps in the layout as the image is loaded and the browser figures out the dimensions. And you've probably seen this. And if you have a lot of images popping up into the page, the layout starts jumping radically. And this is very confusing for the visitor. So we'll try and avoid that by giving this image two other attributes, the width, and I'll put 480 pixels here, and the height attribute. This image has the height of 320 pixels, and we're not using anything here. We're not using px at the end here. It's just the number. So now when the browser starts loading this image, it already can see that, okay, I need to reserve a space that is 480 pixels wide and 320 pixels tall for this image. And this way we avoid these distracting jumps in the layout. Now this is all well and good, but we have a problem with this image now. And the problem is this. It doesn't scale down and it doesn't scale up. It's exactly the width and height we gave to it. So this brings us to our second technique, where we actually start giving the browser some options. So the second technique involves two new attributes. And actually, I'm gonna take out the width and height. From here, I mentioned the layout problems we will get, but I'll show you how we can get around this with these new attributes. The first new attribute is, let's put it here on its own line, it's source set. And what this means is that we're going to give it a list of images to choose from according to the circumstances. So, like I said, I have a small, medium, and large image here. So we're going to make a list of those right now. The first image is, it's over there. And remember to put the ending here, JPEG. After the name of the image, I'm going to put the width here, just like we did a moment ago, but this time we're going to use, somewhat confusingly, we're going to use the W, the W to indicate the width. So we're saying that this image has the width of 480 pixels. But instead of pixels, or instead of just a number, we need to attach the W here. And we're going to separate this with a comma. And our next image is the medium one. Yes. The medium image is 960 pixels wide. And then we have the large one, which is 1440 pixels wide. And we need to keep this here. Remember to not remove this information here, because just in case the browser doesn't support source set, it can find an image from the source. So you can see now that we're using the highest quality image here. The browser has made this decision. And on a large 32-inch desktop monitor, this image looks really good. Let's try and go smaller. And there we go. Now we drop to the medium-sized image on a smaller screen, and it looks pretty nice. And I think if we go to the smallest, we drop down to 480 pixels. And this small, low-quality image, as you can see, it looks perfectly fine on a mobile-sized screen. Again, I think we have a problem with the size of the image, because previously the image didn't scale. But now the image stays the size of the viewport, 100% of the viewport width. And this is a bit too big in my opinion. We should use a smaller size here. So we can give this image another attribute, and its sizes. So we're saying here, how large should the space be where we fit the image? So I'm going to say, for example, let's say the images should always be 50% of the viewport width. And there you go. As you can see, the image stays half the width of the viewport. all the time. Now, on a mobile screen, this image is starting to look a bit too small for my liking. It's okay when we go bigger, but it's a bit too small here. We can fix this by giving the sizes a condition. And this condition is, let's say, if the viewport width at maximum is 600 pixels, then the image is 100% the viewport width. And let's take a look at it now. On a small screen, the image is the same size as the viewport. It's scaling. There we go. And now, if or otherwise, we're going to use a 50% image. So we're saying if the viewport width is 600 pixels or less, if the maximum width is 600 pixels, then the image should be the size or the width, exactly the width of the viewport. Otherwise, it should be 50. And as you can see on a very large screen, it stays half the width of the viewport. On a smaller screen, it is 100%. So the last technique available to us is a bit more complicated, but let's say we want this image to be different on a small screen, because the dog seems to disappear here. It would be nice to use a cropped image to really make the dog stand out. And I have one here, just like this. So let's try and give the browser some instructions so that when the viewport width is less than 600 pixels, it's going to use the cropped version. Otherwise, we'll keep on using these wide images here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and we'll start with a new pair of tags called picture. And as you can see, we have the opening and closing tag here. And inside here, first of all, we need to give the fallback image. Just like this. And remember the description in the street, dog walking in the street. There we go. Now we have our fallback image. Now next we're going to give some sources here. And the first source is the cropped image. And we're going to, first of all, we're going to have to say when the screen size is 600 pixels or less, then use this image. So we're going to give it, the source, a media attribute this time. And we're going to place the media condition here, which was if the viewport width is 600 pixels or less, then we're going to use the cropped version of the image. So we're going to give the source tag first the media condition, and then we're going to give it the source set. And of course we can give it many options of this same image, but we only have this one, so it's dog walking cropped JPEG with a width of 248 pixels. There we go. And again, of course, we can separate different images with a comma. The last thing is the sizes attribute here, and I'm going to say again that reserve a space of 248 pixels for this image in the layout. And there you go. Now when the screen is 600 pixels or less, we're using this cropped image, and when, hopefully, on a bigger screen, we're using the fallback image right now. So let's give the picture another source. This time there's no media condition. We're just saying whenever the viewport is bigger than 600 pixels, use the following images. And we have the familiar 3 images here in a comma separated list. And we can also give these images the sizes attribute. And let's say we're going to use the 50% of the viewport width. Let's review this. We have the picture element here, and inside it we have 2 sources. The first one is the cropped image for smaller viewports. The second source is for bigger viewport sizes. And then thirdly, we have the fallback image here, and always remember to put this here. Just in case these sources fail, then at least we have an image to load. And as you can see, on a large screen, we're using high quality images, which are 50% of the viewport width. And on a smaller screen, we're using the cropped image. Now this third technique is a bit more complicated, but you'll get the hang of it with a little bit of practice. In the next video, we're going to take a look at links.